Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we are talking about mentorship, all the things concerning mentorship. Why should you have a mentor? Regardless of your role or your rank, if that's the right word, everyone should have a mentor. Why is that important? And we're also going to talk about being a mentor and why that also has its benefits and why that's important too. And then I'll talk about, from my experience, what I have experienced to be the best way to get a mentor. A couple of different options that you can go with. Hopefully, this is something that can help. I'll be talking mostly from a corporate standpoint, even though mentorship doesn't just apply to your professional life. That's usually the main way that people think about it. And it's the main way that we'll be talking about today. But you can also have professional mentors, right? That can help you outside of work or outside of your professional life to develop yourself as a person and to hold you accountable for some of your personal goals. So let's dive right in. I did a little bit of research, and one of the articles that I really liked that I'm going to be kind of forming this conversation from, at least the first part, around why mentorship is important, both as a mentor or a mentee. I used an article from Indeed, and I'll make this article available to you in the show notes. Obviously, I could sit here and read through the article. You could read it yourself. That's not the whole point. I will just be referring to it and calling out some of the main highlights from that article, and I'll provide it in the show notes so that you can see. It's from an Indeed article that's titled 24 Reasons Why Mentorship is Important for the Mentee and for the Mentor. So before we kind of dive into why it's important, we know that it's important. We know that there are a lot of benefits to being a mentor and also to being a mentee, which is kind of actually the main focus, why you should have a mentor. Let's sort of start off by defining what a mentor actually is. And then we'll talk about why having a mentor is important. And then we'll talk about why being a mentor is important too. It might even be just as important, but it is important for sure. So let's kick it off. What is a mentor? We already know. We can kind of talk through what a mentor is from our perspective, but there is this article kind of defines it as someone who acts as an advisor to a less experienced individual known as their mentee. Now, typically, individuals seek mentors who work in their same or desired field, which I don't know that I agree with. What I agree with in theory, right? Usually you will pick a mentor who at least maybe works at the same company, so they get it. At least from my personal perspective, my mentors, whether they're official mentors or whether they're casual, I'll talk about what I mean by casual, have been people that I have worked with in the same company, not necessarily in the same role, who have been more senior, who I have admired, and who I believed supported me and supported my goals. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about seeking out mentors. They didn't necessarily have the same role. They did work in the same company. So when you say field, so I would say, yes, the same field, not necessarily the same role. So I agree with it in theory, but there are some nuances, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Mentorship relationships can be built through networking, personal connections, or formal mentorship programs. And we'll talk about that. And the two ways that I have found to be the best ways to develop that mentorship relationship. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I do want to dive in, however. It talks about 12 reasons a mentor is important. I'm not going to list every single one of those 12, because obviously I could just give you the article and you could go read it. But I do want to talk a little bit about why it's important. And I think the first one, the most important reason, is that it supports your growth. If you think about it in the context of your professional life, it is one of the most powerful ways to develop yourself professionally, because remember, you're seeking out a mentor that you admire, that you respect, who is further along in their career and can give you some of the tools and tips and advice that they have discovered along the way. It's almost a shortcut, right? So some of the experiences that they have had, some of the mistakes that they may have made, that they can share with you so that you don't have to make the same mistakes, or you don't have to struggle in ways that maybe they have struggled or not, right? Because I will tell you this, when it comes to seeking out a mentor, I'm kind of going off on a tangent a little bit. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone who, as a woman of color, I can think of three main mentors that I have had that haven't been people of color and haven't been women. They were white males. So when I talk about them sharing some of the experiences that they have had, of course, it's not going to be the same. And there are going to be struggles that you all have as a woman of color that they can't identify with. But I will tell you that choosing those, they're not the only mentors I've had. Of course, I've had women mentors and women of color mentors as well. And there's huge benefit in that because they identify with your story and they understand where you're coming from. But while we're on the subject, it has been important for me to also have mentors who are white males because they bring a different perspective. Now, stay with me and we'll talk about that when we come to choosing a mentor. But I will say that they have a way of taking the emotion out of it, particularly in a professional corporate America where sometimes it's important. The emotion is important. I believe that we should absolutely embrace the emotions that we have. But when they take it out, they bring a different perspective. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we get into choosing a mentor, but they will support your growth. The key thing is they will support your growth. They do this by acting as a source of knowledge. And I'm kind of talking about some of the reasons why it's important to have a mentor. They have a wealth of knowledge, right? They've walked, whether it's people who are identified with your story or have walked in similar shoes, they have walked a path of growth and they do have stories to tell. They have experiences to share. They can call you out on some of the challenges that you're having. They can bring a very unbiased, objective perspective to whatever challenges or situations you're encountering that you can bring to them. They serve as a wealth of knowledge. They help you set goals and they help you stay accountable. What I loved about an official sort of mentorship program that I had joined was with every meeting, they would set sort of goals. So I would prepare for the meeting. It wouldn't be something I would show up and just waste their time because typically mentors are very busy. So help them help you. Prepare for the meeting, come with specific goals, and they can help hold you accountable to those goals, whether it's a goal of being promoted, right? They can sort of hold you accountable. They can help you think through the ways that what you need to do to be promoted, and they can hold you accountable to those steps that you have already outlined to take to getting promoted, right? So I think it's a very, very important, very powerful relationship to have. The other thing that you would hope with a mentorship relationship is that they offer encouragement. They're firm. They're not your friend. They're not your dad. They're not your mother. They're not your sister. They're not your auntie. They're not there to be your friend, but they are there to encourage you, hold you accountable, call you out on some of your behaviors that you may not be aware of, some of your blind spots, but support you and then offer encouragement. So it's almost like the carrot and the stick. You need someone who can be firm with you and say, you haven't done this, or you need to step it up in this area, or these are some areas that you may have as blind spots, but also encourage you in ways that you're doing well and offer that encouragement. The other thing that mentors can help, now this is one that even though it's listed in this article, I really don't think you should go into a mentorship program necessarily from the standpoint of just what you will get out of it, right? Because this one talks about mentors helping make connections. Yes, they can, but I don't think it's wise to expect it. It's something that should happen as a result of your relationship or organically. And yes, my mentors, actually, I am where I am today because my mentors helped with connections, but I don't think it's something you go into expecting that they will do, right? So it is something that they can help with. So with that, before we kind of go into how we can find mentors, and I won't be using the article, I'll be talking purely from my personal experience and what has helped me. I do want to talk about, but for the audience who are not just looking for mentors, but looking to become mentors or haven't actually considered being a mentor, I do want to call out why it's important. And this article lists 12 reasons. I just want to call out a couple. one of them, which I have experienced actually, is that it does boost your interpersonal skills. When you're interacting with your mentee, it offers numerous ways to practice and build things like communication, active listening, right? Which we know that we develop as professionals, but it really helps us to do that because it causes you to listen. It also develops empathy, I think as women who are goal-oriented, which we all are, driven, ambitious, sometimes, even though we'd love to, and I'll speak for myself, love to consider ourselves to be kind and sympathetic, I think empathy sometimes can be missing. This can be because, and I'm speaking from a personal standpoint, because you're not exposed to every point of view. So when you have mentees who come from maybe different journeys, right? We all have a different journey or different experiences. It can cause you to pause and really understand a different point of view. And I think empathy is so critical as leaders to develop. Things like patience, because, you may have your idea of how or what you need to do, 10 steps to get from this point to this point. But just being a mentor to someone else who has a different journey and maybe has different challenges can help with patience, which is another skill that isn't necessarily taught, but it's so important to develop. So interpersonal skills is one of the main things. And I think one of the things also is that's important is it expands your network because you get to work with mentees from different points of view, different walks of life, different points in their journey. It expands your network, it expands your vision, it expands your frame of reference, your way of looking at things. It strengthens your knowledge because sometimes your mentee will ask you questions that cause you to pause and let me go find out. You don't know the answer to everything. I think being a mentor is such a powerful way, and also it boosts your self-confidence too. Because one of the things, especially for me, because my core value is impact, having an impact on someone else's life is just so rewarding. It just helps you to feel like you're bringing value to the table. And I think it's something that you can't really quantify. A lot of times when we think of the mentorship mentee relationship, we always think of how it benefits the person who has a mentor, not so much how it benefits us as mentors, but there is huge benefit in terms of building your self-confidence as well. So I do want to call those out before we go into the two main ways that I personally have found to be the best way of finding a mentor. I don't recommend, I'm not saying it's wrong, but from my experience, I don't necessarily recommend just asking someone to be your mentor. Mentors typically are very busy. We're all very busy, but people that you look up to and admire and who are further along in their careers will by default be pretty busy people. And the last thing you want to do is just reach out and ask, can you be a mentor, particularly when you don't have a relationship with that person? I think it's a big no-no. The two ways that I found to be the most powerful, the first way, which is actually, I wouldn't say it's the easiest way, but it seems to be the easiest way because it's more readily available. If you work in an organization that has a mentorship program, there is absolutely no reason that you shouldn't be signing up for this. I 100% recommend sign up for a mentorship program. My last company, I signed up, and what you can do, they have different mentorship programs. They have mentorship programs for mid-level managers who get paired up with executives. That was life-changing or game changer for me as I wanted to up level my game. Or even just general mentor-mentee programs. Sign up for everything, whether it's underrepresented. There was an underrepresented minority mentorship program. Sign up for that. Generic mentorship, not generic, but more general mentorship programs. Sign up for every mentorship program that your organization provides for you. There's no excuse not to sign up. If nothing else, you get to meet new people. You get to work with people that you wouldn't otherwise necessarily work with, and you learn so much. It expands your frame of reference. It builds your network. I would absolutely recommend that you sign up for any mentorship program that's available to you through your company. That's the first way. And I have done that, and it's been hugely beneficial for me. The second way, which I love, is organically. It's a phrase I'm using. What I mean by that is stay in touch. This is not something that you just do cold, asking someone to be a mentor with no relationship. Build relationships, do the work. People buy from people. We work with people that we like. We work with people that we relate to. We help people that we like. And what I always have done, one thing that I've tried to do, obviously it's not always easy, but done my best to do, is stay in touch with people that I've worked with that I admire. Even if they're not necessarily in the same location, stay in touch with them after you move on. Send them a Christmas card. Reach out to them by email. If they, for example, live in Chicago and you live in DC, as is my case, if you're in Chicago, reach out to them. Hey, I'm going to be in town. Do you have time for lunch or a quick coffee? Understanding that they're busy. Asking nothing, but build those relationships, because what will happen is it happens organically. Pick their brains when you go to coffee or lunch. Say, hey, I'm dealing with this. Whatever. What do you think? That's a more sort of casual mentorship relationship, but there is so much power in it, because I will tell you that all the jobs that I've gotten have been via, and there are two people that I call it. They may not officially consider themselves to be my mentors, but there are two people who have been most beneficial in my career path, who have moved on and who have been able to say, hey, I know Ugochi, she worked with me here, or, how about this? Or have you thought about, who've even reached out to me and said, oh, such and such in another organization is looking for XYZ. Are you interested? They have been hugely beneficial to my career, and they have provided me critical advice. And they both happen to be white males, not to bring race into it, but I just want to expand your horizon a little bit, because it's important to have mentors that don't necessarily have the same life experiences. There is just as much power, however, and I have had female mentors of color who have been very powerful because they have understood my life journey. They have walked in my shoes, and they can give me advice based on those life experiences that we both share, right? So I just want to expand your horizons a little bit. Don't stick to a particular mentor, but the method of finding mentors should not change. Take advantage of every mentorship program the organization provides, and do the work to build relationships with your mentors, right? Organically, do the work, stay in touch, send Christmas cards, have coffee, go to lunch, call every now and again, put time on the calendar once every quarter or whatever it may be, and just build those relationships over years. These take years, but there is so much power and benefit in that, because it then becomes symbiotic. What I mean by that is you're giving as much as you're getting. It's not just a me, what can I get kind of relationship. And those have been hugely beneficial. Again, I'd love to expand on this talk about mentorship, because I am so passionate about this. And there is also even more we can talk about the difference between a mentor and a sponsor. Now, that's a different level, right? We want to talk about that. And so we'll be having guests on the show who can speak to that, who can really talk to that. And if you have any thoughts or comments, or you want to weigh in on the conversation, please, the more voices that have opinions and thoughts, let's make this a community so that everybody can gain from it. Thank you so much for listening today, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.